This is what blackmail looks like when it comes from the Department of Justice. Hours after federal agents shot an American nurse in the back on a Minneapolis street, Attorney General Pam Bondi sent a letter to Governor Walz. It contained 3 demands. Give us your voter rolls. Give us your welfare data. Repeal your sanctuary policies. Do this, and we might consider ending what she called the chaos in Minnesota. Refuse, and the occupation continues. You thought the federal government was supposed to protect Americans. You thought the Justice Department was supposed to enforce laws, not issue ultimatums. You were wrong. In this special report, we are going to break down the most brazen attempt at political extortion in modern American history. We are going to show you how the Trump administration is using dead Americans as leverage to seize election data. We are going to expose the nationwide campaign to consolidate voter information under federal control. And we are going to explain why this is not about fraud, not about immigration, and not about law enforcement. It is about the 2026 midterms. Saturday, January 24th, 2026, 9:05 a.m. Alex Pretti, a 37-year-old ICU nurse, is shot and killed by Border Patrol agents on a Minneapolis street corner. The same day, Attorney General Pam Bondi sends a 3-page letter to Governor Walz. The timing is not coincidental. The letter was drafted before Pretti's body was cold. It was sent while protesters were still gathering, while the blood was still being cleaned from the pavement. This is the administration's response to killing an American citizen, not an apology, not a promise of investigation, a list of demands. Let me read you the key passage. This is a direct quote from the Attorney General of the United States. Allow the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice to access voter rolls to confirm that Minnesota's voter registration practices comply with federal law. Access voter rolls, not the public portions, the private data, social security numbers, driver's license information, the information that identifies exactly who every registered voter in Minnesota is and where they live. Minnesota Secretary of State Steve Simon responded within hours. His answer was one word: no. Then he elaborated. Her letter is an outrageous attempt to coerce Minnesota into giving the federal government private data on millions of U.S. citizens in violation of state and federal law. It is deeply disturbing that the U.S. Attorney General would make this unlawful request a part of an apparent ransom to pay for our state's peace and security. Ransom. That is the word an elected official used to describe a demand from the federal government. And he is not exaggerating. The structure of the letter makes the quid pro quo explicit. Bondi lists the chaos in Minnesota. She blames state officials for the violence. Then she lists her demands. Then she implies that compliance would restore the rule of law. This is the language of hostage negotiation. Give us what we want, and we will stop hurting you. Minnesota is not alone. The Department of Justice is currently suing 22 states for refusing to hand over unredacted voter registration databases. Every single one of these states is a state Trump lost in 2020. This is not a pattern. This is a targeting list. The lawsuits claim the DOJ needs the data to enforce federal election law, but federal judges are not buying it. A judge in California dismissed the suit there, calling the request unprecedented and illegal. A judge in Oregon signaled he planned to do the same. 31 states have refused to comply. The courts have swiftly dismissed DOJ's claims in 3 of them. The administration is losing in court, so they are trying a different approach. In Minnesota, they are using dead bodies as leverage. There is a specific target in Minnesota that explains the intensity: same-day voter registration. Minnesota allows voters to register on Election Day. You can show up, prove your residency, and vote. This system has been in place for decades. It is popular. It increases turnout. It is also legal. But the DOJ specifically mentioned it in their demands. They want records relating to same-day registration and vouching, the practice where a registered voter can vouch for another voter's residency. Why does this matter for the midterms? Minnesota has competitive House races. It has a Senate seat on the ballot. High turnout tends to favor Democrats. Same-day registration increases turnout. If the DOJ can access voter rolls and challenge same-day registrations, they can create chaos at polling places, they can slow down lines, they can challenge voters' eligibility, they can suppress turnout in exactly the precincts where suppression would help Republicans. This is not voter fraud prevention, this is voter suppression preparation. The letter also demands welfare data. Share all of Minnesota's records on Medicaid and food and nutrition service programs, including Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program data, SNAP data, food stamps. The administration wants to know who receives government food assistance, where they live, and how to contact them. They claim this is about fraud prevention. They cite the Feeding Our Future scandal, where federal prosecutors charged 78 individuals with stealing approximately $250 million during COVID. But that case is already being prosecuted. The fraud was discovered. The perpetrators are being held accountable. The system worked. What the administration actually wants is a database of vulnerable people, immigrants, low-income families, people who might be intimidated by federal attention, people who might decide that voting is not worth the risk if it means attracting ICE. Vice President J.D. Vance said the quiet part out loud in an interview. He explained that welfare data could help ICE find people. What we would like to do is talk to local officials and say, according to the Medicaid rolls, where was the last address this person was domiciled? Or according to a SNAP application, maybe that could give us insight into where this person is today. Voter rolls to challenge elections. Welfare rolls to hunt immigrants. This is the architecture of a surveillance state being assembled piece by piece. The Brennan Center for Justice is tracking these requests. Their findings are alarming. The DOJ has demanded election records and voting equipment access from multiple states. An intermediary claiming to work for the Trump administration sought access to voting machines in Colorado. A DOJ official requested access to voting machines in 2 Missouri counties. The DOJ has sued Fulton County, Georgia, for records related to the 2020 election. The administration is also sharing voter data with the Department of Homeland Security. Initially, DHS officials told state election administrators they had neither received nor requested voter data from the DOJ. Then the administration released a statement saying they were sharing the data. They lied to state officials. Then they admitted the truth when caught. Then they proposed confidential memorandums of understanding that experts say only serve to show both the improper nature of the demands and the inadequate security measures in place. Your voter information, if your state complied, would be shared with the same agency that just killed 2 Americans in Minneapolis, the same agency that is conducting raids across the country, the same agency whose agents wear masks and refuse to identify themselves. What could they do with that data? They could cross-reference voter rolls with immigration databases to identify people to target. They could show up at polling places to challenge voters. They could knock on doors of registered voters to verify their citizenship. They could create an atmosphere of intimidation that makes people afraid to vote. This is why the states are fighting. This is why the courts are ruling against the administration. This is why Minnesota's Secretary of State called it ransom. The connection between ICE operations and election manipulation is becoming explicit. Maine Secretary of State Shenna Bellows noted that the DOJ demand for Minnesota voter data shows ICE raids are tied to elections. This is not a conspiracy theory. It is an observation based on the administration's own actions. They deploy thousands of agents to a swing state. They kill Americans who protest. Then they demand voter data as the price of peace. The midterms are in November, 10 months away. The administration is laying groundwork now. The raids create chaos. The chaos justifies demands. The demands, if met, provide tools for election interference. This is not speculation. This is the stated logic of the letters they are sending. Governor Walz dismissed Bondi's letter in a press conference. He pointed out that the demands have been made before and rejected before. He noted that the shooting of Alex Pretti is being investigated. He called for de-escalation. But de-escalation requires both sides to step back. The administration is not stepping back. They are escalating with every death, using every body as additional leverage. The institutional response is mounting. 120 House Democrats are sponsoring a bill to impeach Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. Senate Democrats are blocking funding for DHS unless restrictions are placed on ICE operations. Federal judges are issuing restraining orders to preserve evidence from the Minneapolis shooting. State attorneys general are coordinating legal strategies to resist data demands, but the administration has shown it does not respect court orders. It does not cooperate with state investigators. It does not acknowledge limits on its power. The question is no longer whether they will try to manipulate the midterms. They are telling us they will. The question is whether any institution can stop them. There is a word for a government that kills citizens who protest and then demands their voting records. There is a word for using violence to coerce political compliance. There is a word for making election data a condition of public safety. The word is not democracy. We are watching the DOJ lawsuits. We are watching the state responses. We are watching Minnesota, where an American nurse was shot in the back, and the federal government's response was to demand the names and addresses of everyone who might vote against them. This is the price of peace, according to Pam Bondi. Minnesota said no. The question now is whether America will say no too. The midterms are coming. The data requests are multiplying. The bodies are accumulating, and the Attorney General of the United States is writing ransom notes on official letterhead. This is not law enforcement. This is conquest. The historical parallel is uncomfortable but necessary. Throughout American history, voter suppression has taken many forms. Poll taxes, literacy tests, grandfather clauses, white primaries, each was designed to look neutral while targeting specific populations. The modern version is more sophisticated. It uses data instead of poll workers. It uses algorithms instead of registrars. It uses federal power instead of local sheriffs. But the goal is the same. Reduce the number of voters who might vote wrong. Make voting harder for certain people. Create fear and uncertainty around the act of political participation. When the Department of Justice demands voter rolls from states Trump lost, they are not investigating fraud. If they were investigating fraud, they would start with evidence of fraud. They have none. They are building infrastructure. They are collecting data. They are preparing tools for challenges, purges, and intimidation operations that will unfold as the election approaches. The playbook is not new. It has been tested in authoritarian transitions around the world. First, you identify your opponents. Then you create legal pretexts to exclude them. Then you enforce selectively. What is new is watching it happen in real time. What is new is watching the Attorney General of the United States send ransom demands to governors while bodies are still warm on their streets. Minnesota said no. 30 other states have said no. The courts are saying no. The question is whether no will be enough. Welcome to the occupation.